So I'm going to do this next series on a very controversial topic because I'm no stranger to controversy. And again, this is for people that contact me because, again, people that have never seen my stuff. I was on Touching the Afterlife YouTube channel and others. And my main goal is to reach those prodigals that are in pits, that have fallen away from God, that contact me. And a lot of you that contact me have no hope whatsoever. You guys are in the pit. You guys think that God is an unmerciful tyrant in the sky. It's heaven or hell. Only, the vast majority are going straight to hell. And there's only, it's like winning the lottery to get to heaven. So you guys are almost hopeless that contact me. So I'm going to give this series as kind of a tool that I pull out of my arsenal for some of you to change your perspective on how God is and his judgments. And a lot of religious people won't like what I'm about to say because the conditioning on this topic is very real. And I'm going to talk about the afterlife and heaven and hell and purgatory and universalism and annihilationism and eternal conscious torment, which are your main perspectives on this topic. Now, I've studied these things for 5, 6, 7 years nonstop. So anybody that comes to me and wants to try to refute things like possible universalism that has not done the legwork, and this isn't just about a couple verses and what the Greek says, and I'll get into that vaguely. This isn't about, like a few months, 5 years. And I'm going to cover, this is just an intro. And I don't know when I'm going to do all the parts because I'm going to Tennessee to a Goshen community. I'm going to do a video with my friend Dalton Gray, which is down here. We did a deliverance teaching for 2 hours already. He's also on Touching the Afterlife. But I'm going to cover these topics. I'm going to go over what the early church taught in the first couple hundred years, whether it was eternal conscious torment or whether it was universalism, because universalism was taught in the early church from the very beginning. I'm going to cover the Cappadocian fathers like Basil and Gregory of Nyssa. I'm going to cover Clement of Alexandria. I'm going to cover personal experiences that friends of mine have had that kind of make you question things. Some of the Catholic mystics throughout the years that have seen things of elements of what it was, outer darkness or some realms of torment that seem to be that people were able to leave. Now, I know, like I said, a lot of you that have been conditioned to think all Catholics are evil or just, there's no middle grounds and it's not possible. The Lord says all things are possible. It doesn't say that the Lord says all things are possible but purgatory. It doesn't say that all things are possible but universalism in the very end of time. I'm not teaching, this is one part of this teaching that I have to make a clarification on, is that there's a lot of well-meaning universalists that gaslight other people because they don't believe what they believe. And they use emotional arguments and they use a lot of false claims. I love John Crowder. He's got some very good stuff, but there's a lot of false claims that the majority of the church taught it. It's never been a majority view. It's a minority view. What I'm going to do is just kind of like what I did in my Romans 14 teachings. I'm going to give you personal experiences. I'm going to give you church fathers' writings. I'm going to give you things to look up on your own. And I'm going to give you all of these things in a package, and you go ahead and make the decision. What I'm trying to do for people that contact me is that some of these things are mysteries. And mysteries, I think God, in the entire Old Testament, God doesn't even really discuss the afterlife. I think there's a reason for that. Just like in the New Testament, he doesn't really discuss it. Now, certain things from the New Testament, that there's levels to it. You know what I mean? That there's torture involved. That there's realms of Tartarus and Hades and Sheol, and there's a lot of people that do backflips with Hebrew words trying to say that there's no hell, it was just the grave and all this other nonsense. They just do, Gehenna was some garbage dump because there's some metaphorical things in the natural. They want to like completely take it over and say that there's no hell at all. And there's all these false balances out there. And that's why I'm going to present it, because we'll just cover this real quick in this first part. I don't find any church fathers in all of human history that ever really taught something like annihilationism. Now, when it comes to a lot of Hebrew roots people, they do the same thing with flat earth that they do with annihilation. They take a few scant verses of poetic language like the dead know nothing, and they just make entire doctrines out of it. And, like Adolf Hitler's just going to get vanishingly puffed into thin air, maybe suffer for 5 minutes, and that's it. I don't believe that. I don't believe there's anywhere that's taught that. The early church doesn't have a history of teaching that. So let me just say that right off the back. I'm not really going to cover that. Okay? The early church, for me, basically, it was between possible universalism, which is called apostasis, is the name of the term, or eternal conscious torment. It was really the main teaching, because universalism was taught all throughout church history. It was a minority view. But anyway, I'm going to get into that in the second part, in personal experiences, and I'll put names and things you can look into. To some of you, might need a little bit of hope out there. I mean, like some of you you were like me. I was like, oh my God, God is just this unmerciful tyrant. I don't even know why I'm going to try to be saved, because, it's like 1 in 2 billion. I might as well give up. I'm doing this because it'll give you a little tinge of hope. Is that I will never, ever teach as a doctrinal truth universalism. I will never doctrinally teach eternal conscious torment as an absolute fact, because I just don't know. I think there's mysteries in the word. And I think that when people come out and talk about these mysteries, they're afraid of being labeled a heretic or all these other things. I'm not. I don't care what you think. I have my own experiences, which I will cover, and I will give writings for you to go look up to get you to broaden your perspective a little bit, because like I said, there's mysteries in the words. And this is why I have a problem with well-meaning universalists. I always say, and I'll cover this, there's a book called The Apocalypse of Peter that I will cover that was canon for 200 years in the next part of my teaching whenever I do it. I don't know if I'll do it in a month or whatever. But if something like universalism was to be true in the very end of time, if God decided to do that out of his mercy, because he says he can do whatever he wants, it would not be something you would teach to the general public. I get all these universalists that are just spouting off that it's doctrinally 100% true. And why would you tell anybody that is wicked or bouncing back and forth, which is most lukewarm Christians, that everybody's going to be saved? Like I said, a wicked person is going to continue to do wickedness. And in the Apocalypse of Peter, it talks about this, if that book is true. And I frame all of these as ifs, and theory. Even if I truthfully 1000% believe universalism, and I hope in the end of time that some of the stuff that I'm going to present to you is true, that my friends and people I know that have had these visitations are all real, because I'm merciful. I want mercy to be shown to all men, but I won't ever teach it as fact. I mean, like I said, because I'm going to be judged for what I teach. What I am going to do is present theories, present the understanding that I have, present what the church fathers taught, present the experiences that I know of, and just kind of leave it out there for you to either, like I said, most of my stuff is for people that I'm trying to reach, to give a little bit of a tinge of hope out there, because some of you have created a God in your own mind that makes Hitler look like Mother Teresa. So, like I said, I'm going to cover universalism. I'm going to cover the early church fathers. I'm going to cover purgatory. I don't want to cover annihilationism. I think I just got rid of that one. I don't believe it. I don't believe it was ever technically taught by anybody. You would have some record of it, and I'm going to cover eternal conscious torment, because I always tell people, even if some of this is true, from what I understand, people that have been there, it feels like eternity. I'm not going to ever teach some wicked sinner. I don't just do these teachings, to the general public. I'm doing it to the general public now as a theory and as something to chew on for some of the more mature saints, or just somebody that's coming to me with absolutely no hope to maybe shift that there may be a little bit of gray areas in some of these things. So that's it. That's just the intro to it. Like I said, I'll probably do, my video with Dalton Gray here in a few weeks. And then like I said, I'm going to take my time on this one, because this has been like a 5-10 year journey for me, and I'm trying to word it correctly. But stay tuned. I also might do another video shortly on the UFOs and the war that's going on in heaven, the galactic war, and try to bring a little bit of understanding to that.